Okay, Shaya, we are delighted that you are with us. We were put in touch with you because you were once one of the Holocaust survivors who traveled on the famous Exodus 1947 ship, facing the might of the British Navy as you tried to reach your homeland in Israel. You faced many great adversities even before you reached the Exodus ship. After you finally made it to Israel, life has blossomed for you as you rose to prominence in the Israeli Air Force and spent several years working as an air attaché in London. It's so good to know that you have been married to Tsipi for nearly 64 years, have 3 daughters and 9 grandchildren.
And 2 great-grand.
Great. Okay, so here are the questions. Where were you born, and how and why was your family life disrupted?
I was born in Warsaw, Poland, on the 3rd of October 1934. A very rich, very rich family, and a Zionist family. And my father knew that he was on the blacklist of the Nazis. So the minute that the war started on 1st September 1939, he and my 2 brothers escaped from Warsaw to the Russian part, the Soviet part actually, of Poland, to a place named Baranovichi, which today it's Belarus, White Russia. And so it started that our family was aparted, and after about 2 months that we were with the Nazis in Warsaw, there was no ghetto as yet, but we saw a lot of unpleasant events. We, with a professional border smuggler, my mother, myself, 2 of my sisters, smuggled to the Russian part of Poland. And then we met my father, my 2 brothers. One of them was already a surgeon. He worked in a famous hospital. He was educated as a surgeon in Italy, Milano, not Milano, sorry, the name of the city of the cars,
Torino?
Torino. And he...
So could you just start that sentence again?
He actually was a surgeon. He graduated university in Torino, Italy, because our family back is coming from Italy. We are not originally from Poland. And he already was working in a hospital in Warsaw called Dziesiątka Jezus. So all of us were again together in Baranovici for about, my father rented an apartment, a kind of an apartment, which was nothing to compare with our house in Warsaw, which was a beautiful house and a big house. And that was until about 4 months later, which means about September, end of September 1930, end of March 1940, end of March 1940, knocks on the door, NKVD, which is the secret police of the Soviet Union, with 2 soldiers. We have about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to arrange ourselves and to be outside. Rain, mud, a lot of people, because we were declared as political enemies of the Soviet Union. Because of the agreement between the 2 foreign ministers, Molotov and Ribbentrop, Molotov the Soviet Union, Ribbentrop the Nazi, and we were put on a train, exactly the same train as Jews were put to Auschwitz, exactly the same. And then we were separated from my eldest brother, who was the surgeon, and my sister, who was also a nurse in the hospital, because they were taken by the Soviets to a field hospital of the Soviet Union, of the Red Army, and we were separated from them, and we started to travel with the train towards the east. In Russia, in those days, I believe that also today, plus minus, you didn't know where are you going, why, when will the train stop, when you will disembark, or where if you will embark another train. You didn't know anything. So after about 10 days of traveling in conditions which was unbelievable, just water, dark bread, they called it bread, it was not exactly bread, and the car, the train car was, as I told you, exactly the same as Jews were sent to Auschwitz. We arrived to Ural. We were put in a kind of a concentration camp with hard labor, and there I was sent to a kindergarten. It was called a kindergarten, and my conditions were a little bit better than my parents and my brother and my sister. And in that kindergarten, all the, I don't know how you call it, but they were pioneers, women pioneers, that mainly we were brainwashed. As children, we were brainwashed. In other words, we knew slowly but constantly that our father is called Stalin and our mother is called Mother Russia. And when I came back to the place where my parents were, the hut where my parents were, and I told it to my brother, he was very angry with me, but you know, as a child, it was very easy to brainwash, and I really believed in it. 1941, end of June, beginning of July. As you know, on the 22nd of June, 1941, Barbarossa. Suddenly we woke up in the morning, no guards, the gates are open, we are alone, nothing. Actually, we are no more political enemies of the Soviet Union. I don't know how and in what way, but my father took us walking all the time, conditions, hunger, three things which I will never forget: hunger, lice, and cold. And as you know, it's a very unpleasant 3 events on a child which is about 6 years old, about 6 years old. But all of us suffered. How we got on a train, not a passenger train, but a transport train. We came with this train to Kazakhstan, to a place called Timur. And there I started to suffer really from hunger, lice, cold, and my family, or my father actually said that if they will not do something and get me some food, I'm going to die, because I was not growing, I was a skeleton. Same as you look at the children in Biafra. Anyhow, he came with a horse and he said to my mother that there is an orphanage. He called it a children's home, about 25 kilometers from Timur. My mother was against it. She didn't want to separate. But my father took me. He brought me to the place. He didn't kiss me. He didn't hug me. He turned around because he didn't want me to see that he is crying. He was a very strong man, a very powerful man, a very ambitious man. Because of him I am alive, in simple words. And he rode back on the horse to Timur, and I stayed there. And about a week later I decided I'm not going to stay there. I'm running away. I collected from the kitchen, from what was leftovers, pieces of bread, pieces of blanket, pieces of paper, and about 3-4 weeks after I was brought there, I opened one of the windows after we had to turn off the lights. When I said lights, I mean candles. I turned myself with all the blankets, piece of papers. We had no shoes. So I put on myself a kind of pieces of blanket and some papers, and I started to walk. Temperature was below zero, snow. Place that I am a child of 7 years old. I don't know what, I don't know why, and don't know how. I don't know anything, but I remembered one thing, that when I rode with my father on the horse, there was a kind of a stream running all the time on our right-hand side. So I was looking for that stream, I found it, and I said, if I found the stream, I have to walk when the stream will be on my left-hand side. I had already then, most probably, senses of navigation, and I believe I was frozen totally. I didn't feel my feet. Most probably I was falling asleep for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, I don't know. But on the next morning, suddenly I saw the little huts of Timur. And so I came back. When I knocked on the door, and you can imagine how I looked and was in what conditions I was. My mother opened the door of the hut, and she said, "Shayele," and fainted. No one believed me. How? Why? When? With whom? Without anyone? Anyhow, how I came back home. And my mother said to my father that never again. He will stay with me even if we will starve to death. So the time came through, and a little bit my father was organized in a kind of an organization which is like in Israel there was a Mashbir Litzarchan. It was called in Russian Rai Potreb Soyuz. The mission of this organization was to arrange the food ships that went from the United States through the North Pole for the Russian army, for the Red Army. But as in Russia, if they sent 100%, if 50% came to the Russian army, was a miracle, because the other 50% was stolen on the way. And in this organization, where he was working, he joined the people that are stealing food. And from that time, that was in 1944, around May 44, and from that time, we didn't know what's hunger anymore, because we ate American biscuits, American sardines, American chocolate, American concentrated milk, etc., etc. And but my father and my mother were very, very sad, because in 1943 one of the, I don't know who, a friend of my father met my father on the railway station and told him if he knows that my eldest brother and my sister were killed. So this was something which they never recovered from, and they were killed not in a concentration camp. They were in the Red Army. He was on operation on a field hospital of the Red Army, which was bombed by the Nazis, by the Luftwaffe, and they were killed during an operation, both of them. So the time went through, and I am not going to elaborate too much about it.
Let me start another clip here because